Thank you for joining me in my Relationship Advice podcast. I'm Dr. Elena Sherwood if we haven't met before. My goal today is to answer the most recent questions I'm getting that prove to be what is in the hearts of so many. Just a little background. I was a couples therapist for 35 years. I have since retired my license and I moved on to relationship coaching, both individual and or couples. This is what I do. Link in the description if this is something you might be looking for. The easiest way, honestly, for me to do this is just read you the questions and then answer them here on the spot. Relationship question. In the midst of ending a long marriage and he's now becoming the perfect husband and father. He's attentive, he's helpful, he stopped drinking. It's got me so confused, just looking for guidance. This question is similar to the other ones I'm getting, which is also, how do I know if change is going to stick? And how do I know if they have made enough change for me to measure or assess whether or not I should stay? The first thing we need to acknowledge is that it is difficult to have experienced maybe feeling dismissed or abandoned or taken for granted in your relationship. So let's honor that. That doesn't just go away because your partner has now decided to make changes. Take some time, think about that, process those feelings. Maybe you talk about them, maybe you don't. Let them have some room in your heart. The second thing I want to talk about is I want to make sure that you don't get stuck and live in the hurt place. Let me say this a little bit differently. Many of us have experienced a lot of disappointment and sadness and all kinds of rejection maybe and heartbreak, all of that. And I am not minimizing that awful things may have happened to you. What I really want to challenge you on is, are you sitting and living in the hurt place? I just talked about allowing the feelings to come through, but that's not a place you live. That is a tunnel through. That is a place you pass through. That's necessary for healing. But I want to make sure that you do not get stuck there. The biggest problem you will have if you do is you don't heal. It's a place where blame and anger and resentment take over, and there is no other alternative but for you to kind of live here, and that's not a place to thrive or to grow. So that's my biggest advice right now is don't get stuck in the hurt place. Another point to consider with a hurt place is that perpetuates I am punishing you, prove to me dynamic in a relationship. Again, that's not healthy. If all you were doing is making your partner prove and measuring everything they're doing and being on guard, again, not a healthy dynamic, and that will happen if you stay in the hurt place. Relationships are always about two. And if you want this relationship to work, it means you also need to hold yourself accountable. Is it possible that you are expecting too much? Is it possible that you have focused so much on what they've done and how your partner has hurt you that you may have not noticed some of the role you played in maintaining this unhealthy thing that's kind of happened over time? What do I mean by that? I mean, we're talking about personal accountability. Were there times that perhaps there were opportunities for you to deal, but you chose to pull back? Maybe it didn't feel safe. Maybe it was safe, but you convinced yourself it wasn't. Were there times that maybe you were not so reasonable? Maybe you had your own issues that came up and were emotionally triggered when your partner did something, and then you shut down and never talked about it again. And so I invite you to reflect on your own, because this is, again, the place where we grow and thrive. Accountability, self-reflection. That's key. The last thing I want to say on this topic is that I don't also want you to lie to yourself and say, well, everything's okay now. I really want for things to be okay. So now that I'm seeing some changes, that should be enough, right? Again, you're not living in a hurt and blame. Again, you're holding yourself accountable. That includes also, are you sure you are seeing the evidence you need? And that's okay if you're not. But again, don't lie to yourself by minimizing some other things. I know I've given you a lot, and this is really kind of all over the place. Such is the nature of intimate relationships. The next question I'm going to get to here is, I have many questions on my relationship with my husband, but a first one would be how to reconnect with him without having intimate relations since 2 years as we live in two different countries 70% of the time, and big difficulty in talking together as very independent people. All right, so we're talking about, you have the physical barriers here, which minimizes completely the ability to the hugging and the kissing and the holding and the sexual intimacy and all of that. This happens. And so in terms of reconnecting, the level that relationships need almost the most is the level of vulnerability and emotional intimacy. What does that even mean? Well, that means that you are intent on hearing what is in their heart, not just a rundown of how their day went, but even things like, hey, how are you? No, really, how are you? What are you looking for? You're looking for the places where they speak their truth. The world can be so preoccupied with the surface level that sometimes we just need somebody to really give a flying about how we feel, who cares about what's in our heart. If you could be a person to let them have a safe place for all of their fears and all of their joys and all of their anxieties and all of their, and be a reassuring and supportive, non-judging person, you are giving them the world. And that can be nourished long distance. And that also means you giving freely of the things that are in your heart, not just a rundown of your day, but also talking about, I gotta admit, you know what, today I really missed you. I have some sadness in that this is we have to be so far apart, but, I'm also really, really proud of us. And, some days I worry that, this might be how things will be for forever. And, so I have some worries there. I have some anxieties. I have some fears, but I do love you. And I really, my hope is that at some point this will become an easier situation for us. Again, deeper. Those are just some things that might not feel that deep to you, but to you, they might feel like really, really right from in there. But anyway, talk about those things that are in your heart. I think I've said that enough. So here we go. The next question is, I've been in a relationship for about 2.5 years. We've been on and off. He is the one who is always leaving our relationship. Every time we break up, my guard goes up to protect myself. Would you say this to the end of the relationship? There's an issue that concerns me here, and that is the knee-jerk reaction or the impulse to end or to pull away in a significant distancing way. No, I think the one that says leave our relationship. Okay, so we're talking end. You are not wrong to feel uncertain and to feel a little too protective of yourselves. So let me go back to my concern. Anybody who chooses an exit, like leaving the relationship especially, is of concern as a partner. I say that because that is not the way that we handle. That is not the grown-up adult way that we handle issues. Too much emotion I can't deal with. Okay, give me a couple hours, give me a day. I just need to kind of sort this out. Or you, instead of doing that, you ask for clarifying questions. Or you take a little breather and said, give me like 20 minutes and I'll be back. Like that is the respectful way to do that. I just uploaded a free course on ending the silence in relationships, and I have a playlist which should be easy enough to find. So anybody who exits, this is bad news. So without trying to tell you what to do, because you're going to do what you want to do, and I never want to be the person who does that, I will just let you know that a person who chooses that does not have the emotional maturity to handle the tough things that life brings to a relationship. on a personal note, if that were me, I wouldn't stay. And the next question. All right, we've been married for just over 30 years, but I've been in survival mode for much of the last 15. My husband has been emotionally neglectful and has abandoned me during some of the most important and vulnerable times in my life. He hasn't shared a bed with me in over 5 years. The past years, I've tried to spell out specific things he did in real present time that was painful to me, and it gets only worse. He takes it all as criticism. He accuses me of blaming, and he gaslights reality, fighting for my own self-worth, that it's not okay to do these things to me. That's because none of this is helping. What can I do? Something happens once or twice. It may be just an occurrence. Something happens more than that. It's a pattern. All of this is difficult stuff, but couples need a mechanism. You need a place where you can sort stuff out. If you have someone whose walls are so high up that they refuse to let you in and they block you off with defenses and criticism and accusations and turning things around and blaming you, the gaslighting part, that's of concern. Again, continuing my advice of self-reflection, might it also be possible, in case you haven't looked at this issue, might it be possible that you have become so angry and resentful that most, if not everything that comes out of you towards your husband is how badly they have disappointed you in your marriage? I'm not crazy about this long-term pattern that you've fallen into. So my first question is, has there been an attempt at least at couples therapy? Having said that, as a couples therapist, I was not always the solution that couples needed, because sometimes these walls are so high up, I don't even get through to them. So I wouldn't bank everything on that, but I would consider it just in case, because there was some statistic about 75% of people who go to couples therapy have significant results that really improve their relationship. If there is the hell no, we're not going, then there you go. The question I have for you then is, if you can't thrive in the environment you're in, if the environment you're in is choking your self-worth, that it might be time for you to rethink what kind of environment you should be in and what steps it might take for you to explore something different. There's a lot of fear attached to moving on. I get that. There's a lot of financial hardship. There's a lot of emotional, physical, and mental stress. I get it. But let us not minimize how awful it is for your nervous system alone, let alone your physical, everything that's going on, to live in a place that is shrinking you. It's not good. I think, we got one more, and here we go. And this is a few people saying, I am in the same question. You know what? I'm just going to go and I'm going to do it. Question, 16 years married, roommate relationship for the last 5 years, still best friends, but have no interest in finding others. How to get out of roommate relationship and have better communication. I feel so lonely sometimes, filling void with family and friends, but still missing the connection we used to have. He won't open up about why there's zero affection, intimacy now. 16 years married, roommate relationship for last 5 years, still best friends. Just a reiteration of the few facts here. Both have no interest in finding. Okay, I think that's just sort of the zero intimacy. Okay, there was some repetition in there. If you say that we are still best friends, that's something. And so if there are things that keep you best friends, maybe it's things like common interest. Maybe it's things that you love to travel together, or you love the outdoors together, or you know, any of that. I would amp up that. I love that you look for ways to make you happy, which is with your friends and family and that, which is always something we should be doing anyway. I will normalize an element of loneliness in a relationship because rarely are we ever able to be the perfect thing for our partner that they desire. That takes work, that takes the communication. How to improve your communication? Well, while you're doing your best friend activities, you do what you can to, maybe it's the physical thing, maybe it's something, I'm not talking go have sex, I'm talking hold hands, look each other in the eye contact. Look at them visually and try and name what kind of feelings they might be, or just pay close attention to their verbals and have a conversation about that, saying, I like this. Right now, I feel connected to you. So if you have decided that you want to stay, then you amped up the emotional intimacy between the two of you. I alluded to this in the earlier advice I gave. Same answer, different question. Emotional intimacy. So that might come in talking about the things that you love about this other person, talking about the things that made you fall in love with your husband, talking about some of your best memories, talking about, some things that you really wish for them, good things. It's really just showing your husband that you really, really do care. And from what I'm reading, it does sound like you do care. And so, good news that you are still friends. Amp up the things that you do together. Increase those, because those seem to be the common ground. And then if you do need, learn a little bit more about communicating. I do have a freebie on 80 things to say to connect better. I will put a link of that in the description as well, in case that's something you could use. That is the most of the, okay, I'm in a situation. Oh, here we go. This is another one. Okay, I'm in a situation in my marriage. We have tried and tried. I have given so many chances for him to change, and he only shows he is trying when I am leaving. I feel like we have been here so many times, and he is only willing to try when I want to walk away. Do not fall in love and stay fixated on the version of your partner that only shows up when it's ending. I said earlier, 1 or 2, it's an occurrence. More than that, it's a pattern. So you now have a pattern of somebody only showing up so their life doesn't change dramatically. Sometimes we have to stop lying to ourselves on what we are calling a relationship or a marriage, and that ain't it. Healthy relationships are about loving each other, being committed to each other, being respectful of each other's needs, hearing and listening, and trying your dang best until you get it right, even if you may never get everything right, but it's clear from both sides that you are both giving it your all. So outside of that, both sides, let me say that again. I hear this a lot. What about that? Both sides need to want this, or it will not thrive. One-sided relationships? No, that's burnout, and that's a cruel thing to do to yourself. So I think you hear what I'm saying is if it ain't really wholeheartedly two-sided, you're wasting your time. No, you can't make them love you again. You can't make them whatever. You can't make your partner do anything. The minute you start in the how do I make them this, you are now skirting into the coercion and manipulation zone, which you do not want, and you should never have to do that. And if you feel the need to do that, there's a big problem. I have talked your ear off. I am grateful that you stayed this long. Again, I'm Dr. Elena Sherwood. I'll see you in my next video.